Thanks everyone for joining us. We're going to give it a few more moments as people start trickling in, and we'll get started in just a few moments. Thank you. Okay, it is 11:01 and this is CDLE's Compliance Quarterly Live webinar. Thanks everyone for joining us. We host these every quarter as an opportunity for employers to ask questions directly to our leaders across our regulatory divisions. We're happy to have you here today and we're grateful for your engagement. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. A recording of this presentation will be available on our website shortly following the webinar. We'll also share it to everyone who registered. And when we share that out, it'll include the slides, the recording, and the Q&A. So if you ask a question and you get an answer, you'll have that reference later this afternoon or early tomorrow morning at the latest. We're also streaming live on YouTube. So folks who are watching on YouTube, feel free to drop comments. Drop your questions in the comments and we'll answer those as best we can. For everyone here on Zoom, the chat function has been disabled, so you can use the Q&A function on Zoom to ask your questions. Our incredible team of panelists will be answering as many questions as they can throughout the presentation, and then we will answer some questions live as well once we get through our short slide deck. Taking a quick look at our agenda today. We'll start with the paid family and medical leave division, then we'll go to unemployment insurance, workers' compensation, and our division of oil and public safety, and we'll wrap up with the division of labor standards and statistics. Thanks everyone again for being here, and we'll get to as many questions as we can at the end. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tracy Marshall, who is our division director of our paid family and medical leave insurance division.
Thanks so much, Jessica, and thanks for everyone joining today. So a couple of dates that you need to make sure you have on your calendar for FAMLI. The Q3 wage reports and premium payments are due to us on October 31st. If you utilize a private plan, then your maintenance fee is due on December 31st. And then January 1st is going to bring a couple of new things. First off, the IRS's new FICA guidance on paid medical leave will start to apply January 1st of 2027. When we send out this deck, we will have a clickable link in there so you can see exactly what that guidance from the IRS looks like. Secondarily, the 2027 premium rate will take effect on January 1st as well. From a rulemaking perspective, yesterday's public hearing covered a set of proposed amendments. On September 1st, those amendments will be adopted as a final version, and those adopted amendments will then take place on January 1st, along with that change in the rate of premium withholdings. Among other updates and new features, let's talk a little bit about the My Family Plus employer platform. We did make some updates recently for you. You can now add a doing business ad name and also a 6-digit phone extension in the My Family Plus employer platform. If your legal name and the name customers know you by are different, this is definitely one you want to be paying attention to. Your employees can now find you under the name they actually recognize, and we hope that will mean fewer claims being filed against the wrong employer and also fewer confused phone calls landing on either your desk or mine. If you have a doing business ads, please take a minute to update this for us. PEOs also now have their own account type, which will allow them to report on behalf of their client companies directly. If you're currently set up as a TPA when you should actually be a PEO, please give us a call in the contact center and we will help you get that change made. Additional enhancements are coming on September 3rd. You'll see 4 features being added. And these are based directly on feedback that we've received from you. We'll be including a two-way messaging center where our staff will be able to discuss and solve your issues and your tickets with you directly. Saved draft wage reports, so you'll no longer lose your work if you have to step away for a moment. We will have visible claim ID information in a claims ID column added to your human resources dashboard, where you'll be able to export claims data, see a weekly payment amount made to an employee, and return to filtered search results after you open a single claim. And finally, an activity log and complete filterable payment histories, so you've got insight into who did what with your account and when that happened. If you need any further resources, everything on our slides lives on our website. That would include our file specifications, templates for wage reporting. They're on the TPA page. We've got our user guides living where they always have on the My Family Plus employer page. And then our appeal guides and videos can be found on that appeals page. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Family Business newsletter. That's how you're going to get all of our most recent updates. Now I'm going to hand over to Megan with unemployment insurance.
Thanks, Tracy, and good morning, everyone. Unemployment insurance is, of course, the division of the Department of Labor and Employment that supports wage replacement for employees who have lost their jobs due to no fault of their own, which, as you know, has a huge employer component, claims processing, premium payments. And so I have some updates here for you all for our division. Notable here is some rules and regs, upcoming deadlines, and effective dates. So this is something that isn't new to the UI division, but as a friendly reminder, we do have an electronic communications requirement that went into effect for benefits in 2025, and then for the employer side for premium reporting. We haven't fully integrated this as an enforced activity, but we do ask that you adhere to electronic reporting through the MyUI Employer Plus system. So UI claims correspondence, including those fact-finding questionnaires and additional information requests, those ones must be sent electronically. So any employers or TPAs that interact with our system, please review your account information to make sure that you have an updated verified address, that the appropriate representatives for your organizations are represented and have access to the MyUI Employer Plus systems, and also have the right roles. We do have role-based access that the administrator can set that may impact who can see what and how timely you can be on your responses there. So please just have a quarterly hygiene task to just make sure that you're doing a review of all of that. And in order to do so, you can do, again, we have all clickable links you'll be able to access via the slide deck when you receive this later today or tomorrow. But there are instructions on our website for account maintenance on how to make sure that all of your account information is up to date. And for upcoming rulemaking dates, we are proposing 2 regulatory changes that will impact you all as Colorado employers. We have started stakeholder outreach and engagement prior to the January 2027 legislative session. Draft proposals, again, will be available through these clickable links, one of which is the pattern of failing to respond. So this is kind of speaking back to the employer account information being up to date, having electronic response information accurate and the right roles associated so that you are not hit by this pattern of failing to respond penalty that we're going to be being enforcing with this regulatory change. So these are for employers who have, I believe it's 3 or more instances in a calendar year of not responding timely to requests for facts on a claim. We also have some information on reemployment services and eligibility assessments. This is our RECE program. And so please navigate to this link for more information there. And then we do also have an outreach email address here for the policy revisions if you would like to engage as a stakeholder, or if you have any specific questions or concerns on either of these regulatory changes. And for tech updates for our MyUI Employer Plus system, we did resolve a recent issue where employers and third-party administrators were having challenges logging in with their multi-factor authentication. So resetting passwords, completing MFA. We understand that there were some challenges to accessing the system with those two pathways, and those have recently been resolved. Of course, if you continue to experience any of those issues, please do reach out to our customer service center. I'll have information on who those folks are on the next slide. And then also our state information data exchange system. This is the SIDES system. This is a third-party system we utilize to help support your fact-finding responses. So there is a single sign-on clarification here where please ensure that pop-up blockers are disabled. This will prevent you from being able to access that single sign-on functionality. And then the SIDES earning verification exchange has also been updated. So there's some improved usability and reporting options in order to better capture those contract and commission-based earnings, so those specific scenarios that you may have as an employer. And then here are our division resources again. We have additional engagement opportunities coming up. We have a UI employer workshop scheduled on September 23rd. These are fantastic resources if you are starting out a new business, if you support new businesses. This has a lot of great information about reporting responsibilities, compliance activities, what is an employee. So these are great workshops to please share with your stakeholder groups if you support new businesses, or attend yourselves if you need a refresher. Electronic communication requirements, we discussed this a couple slides ago. Here's a whole bunch of resources here on how to engage with our systems. And then additional toolkits here for employers and third-party administrators. And then UI also does have an employer monthly email as well as a third-party administrator monthly email. So we absolutely encourage you to sign up for those in order to stay up to date in between these quarterly engagements. And I am going to hand it over to Amy Kingston with workers' compensation.
Thank you so much, Megan. Hi, my name is Amy Kingston. I'm the manager of claims and employer programs for the Division of Workers' Comp. Very briefly, the Division of Workers' Comp is the regulatory body that oversees workers' comp for the state of Colorado. Unlike UI and FAMLI, we don't actually issue benefits. We just regulate the companies that do. And workers' compensation is required for all employees with any employees. So if you have an employee that's only part-time, you need work comp, or if you, your family member works for you, still need workers' compensation. So for rules and regulations, a few things happened this past session. One of the big ones was that anyone or any company that is applying for a building or construction permit, they will now have to submit a declaration to the permitting office that they do have workers' compensation. This only applies for projects that are over $1 million. And you can either have a declaration that says, yes, I have workers' compensation, or no, I don't have workers' compensation because I have one of those exceptions and I've filed that exception with the Division of Work Comp, and that's me. We have also changed a law about how workers' compensation documents have to be filed. We have been for a very long time requiring everything through the mail. And so the new law now says that you can email things. It is an exciting step forward. But as a result, we also changed our Rule 1 and Rule 5 to adjust for this. So this is also in line with our new electronic data interchange system that allows insurance carriers to send information to us electronically as opposed through the mail. So if that's what primarily those rules are about, we also, Rule 5, offered some more information regarding how mental impairments are paid and how payments are made to injured workers. Coming up, there is a great link here to our legislative update. Any legislation that touched workers' comp is on that link. We will also have a webinar in early September about anything that's going to touch workers' comp, but that link will take you to a single page that tells you about the big changes that happened last session. In August 27th, we will be having a public rule hearing to discuss our changes to Rule 16 and 18. We are mandated to change these every single year, but they look at how medical bills are paid within our system and what is the maximum amount that can be provided for a medical treatment. If you'd like to come, please register ahead of time, or you're welcome to email me if you have written testimony instead. There is no preference. All testimony is considered the same, whether or not it's in written form or if you come to the hearing. Oh, I think we missed one. Thank you. So as I mentioned very briefly, we had a massive tech upgrade starting in July of 2026. So it's only been 1 month almost. Our system went live and we are now able to accept EDI information, electronic data interchange information from insurance carriers. This does require that all insurance carriers and their administrators log on to our system, and they can start seeing claims live. They can see what they've reported live. We are still working out some kinks. So we do appreciate any feedback that you can give us about our new system. Starting October or November of 2027, so next year, we will be expanding our system even more. So attorneys, injured workers, employers can also all access our system at that point and see what has been filed. Sorry for the dog barking in the background. Someone just rang the doorbell. So that will be a large expansion of what we're currently offering next year. Last but not least, we do have some great new resources. We have recently implemented a claims adjuster guide. Session 9 and 10 have just come up, but we of course have 1 through 8 that looks at how do you adjust claims within Colorado. This is also really helpful if you just want to learn more about how workers' compensation works for an employer or as an injured worker. And now I'm going to send it over to Mahesh with the Division of Oil and Public Safety.
Thank you, Amy. And good morning, everyone. My name is Mahesh Abkurki with the Division of Oil and Public Safety. We are a diverse regulatory program that has a variety of oversight on public safety, a variety of devices that are used commonly, like elevators, escalators, boilers, amusement parks, and such, and petroleum products, which is the oil portion of our program here. I'm going to give you one primary update, which has to do with regulation revisions. In fact, this is a brand new regulation that took effect just about a month and a half ago on July 1st of this year. And it has to do with our newest program within our division, which is the oversight of retail electric vehicle charging stations. So I just want to make a very simple clarification. So there's thousands of charging stations across our state now. These are the electric vehicle charging stations. Some of them charge a fee for that service and are open to the public to use. Those are the ones that fall under the purview of our regulation. So there's those two criteria. They charge a fee for that service, whether it's by the kilowatt or by time or a combination of those two. And they are open to the public. So there are several EV charging stations that are not open to the public. They may be in an apartment complex, at a private company for your employees only, and all that. Those are not regulated by our program here. We've actually done a lot of stakeholder engagement over the last year with stakeholders from across the EV industry, from auto manufacturers like Tesla to the charging companies, ChargePoint and EVgo and Electrify America and others, and have come up with some rules that we hope ensure equity in the marketplace. And it's really focused on weights and measures, making sure that the consumer gets what they pay for and that there's an even playing field for all charging companies. It is a new regulation. Like I said, it took effect July 1st of 26. We do have a deferral on when we actually enforce these rules. And so we won't enforce the requirements of the rules for a full year. So no enforcement until July 1st of 27. But within that time, there are several requirements that I want you to pay attention to. One is that all existing EV charging stations that were installed prior to July 1 of 26 or prior to when these rules take effect do need to be registered with our office. We have a registration form on our website, and you can submit that electronically. And there's no fee to submit that registration. It's essentially a notification that they exist, and that has to be done by the end of this year. For anything that is being installed after July 1 of this year, so anything installed now needs to be registered with our office sooner, so within 30 days of being placed in service. And there's some information on our website that will help you really get into details. I'd be glad to answer questions on it. And I may put a link to our website here in the chat for those of you all that might want to kind of go through that there. So that's kind of our big one, is the retail EV charging station regulations that are new within our program. I got a couple other slides with a few things that I'll go over real quickly. If you can go to the next slide here. We have a variety of programs, as I mentioned, and we do these quarterly newsletters and post them. We kind of do an e-blast and send them to everyone that's in our database, but we also post them on our website along with archives. And so on this slide, you can find links to each of our different programs here and links to the most recent newsletters and prior versions of those newsletters. And I think they always provide a good amount of information, really succinctly, really touches on highlights on what we're seeing and what's upcoming deadlines and things like that. So if you're not subscribed to these, I'd encourage you all to subscribe to them. And all of this is available directly on our OPS website also. And then finally, if you go to the next slide here, Jessica, we also have a variety of engagement opportunities. Right now, we just closed out some grant awards that we've provided to a couple entities to provide some education related to underground damage prevention that relates to our oversight of the Colorado 811 Call Before You Dig program. We have some things going on with our Petroleum Storage Tank Fund and new statutes that allow some additional monies from the Petroleum Storage Tank Fund that we are implementing. And you can find out more about them on our website. I think the most important one that I would put some attention to is kind of the last bullet on compliance assistance. We're always willing to reach out to actually engage with those that we regulate. If you're having a issue, you want some clarification on requirements, always give us a call. But also what we offer, and that's kind of unique with our division, is an opportunity to have one of our inspectors come out and do an inspection without any write-ups. So we'll just kind of walk you through, hey, if we were to inspect your facility today, here's what we would do, and here's some things that you might want to address. And so it gives you an opportunity for your staff to learn what we are looking for, what the expectations are, without receiving any write-ups and notice of violations and fines and all that. And it's in the interest of educating you and your staff on operating in compliance with our rules. That's all that I have today, and I'll hand it over to Jan from DLSS. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This was my first time presenting at one of these webinars. So my name is John Michael Givada, but feel free to call me JM. I'm head of policy development and engagement for the Division of Labor Standards and Statistics. We not only implement, but we enforce Colorado's wage and hour laws, including paid sick leave. And we also house the labor market information team, and that unit does a really good job of keeping data and stats that really help the workforce and that a lot of other agencies rely on for some workforce slash employment related reasons. So with that, we can move on to the next slide and start the update. So last week, the CDLE issued an awesome press release that described the changes to the minimum wage. Just a reminder, the changes to the minimum wage are constitutionally mandated to be adjusted for inflation. So these amounts were just published last week in our press release. Colorado's minimum wage starting January 1st, 2027. It'll be $15.71 an hour. And obviously, we have the adjustment for the tip credit. Denver has its own minimum wage that's going to be higher based on how they calculate their inflation and what their rules provide. And any other local minimum wages will be published, they're going to be published with us, and we will make sure there's notice of those, but they have their own process for how they establish those. So one of the upcoming requirements for employers is related to direct care employers. And there is going to be a direct care Know Your Rights training. And this is a training that direct care employers are required to provide to their direct care workers. And this training module is not quite live yet, but it will be live very soon. And when it is, this is where you'll be able to access that information on our DLSS website. But it's October 1st, 2026 is when the requirement starts officially, but there is going to be a little grace period. So starting on that date, direct care employers will be required to ensure that these direct care workers are completing the training, but they'll have 6 months to ensure that they can complete that training. And if there is a direct care worker hired sometime after October 1st, they will have 6 months from the time that they're hired. So that's the requirement starts there, but it's not like October 1st, you got to do it. No, there's some grace period there. So next slide, please. Yeah, engagement opportunities. One is just a thank you for a previous engagement opportunity. We had a listening session with stakeholders from both the restaurant management industry and the restaurant workers. We had 2 days, 4-hour sessions where we had several people come live to provide comments and discussion. We had a lot of written comments, and we had people participate online as well. It was an awesome opportunity for us to engage with stakeholders, to hear their concerns or hear their ideas, and just hear what was going on the ground floor, really. And we are using that as insight to really push forward this next engagement opportunity. But before, we want to let employers know, and any stakeholder really from this restaurant industry, is please continue to share written remarks on these topics. These were topics like tip pools, service charges, tip to minimum wage, tip credits, things like that. So continue to give us those comments and written comments, or encourage other stakeholders to do so, because we are receiving them and we internalize them and we use them to gain a lot of insight for the next opportunity, which is the rulemaking. We're going to do some fall 2026 rulemaking. And when we do that, we certainly let our stakeholders know through the stakeholder list that you'll see down here on the last bullet point. But that's an opportunity to engage. It's going to be, you typically we have a stakeholder meeting first, and then the rulemaking process will require us to propose rules, and then those rules will be circulated, and then we'll have a meeting to discuss those. So not only are we going to, do the required minimum wage changes, but we'll ensure that stakeholders know what topics are being considered for rulemaking, and we'll have an opportunity to engage in a meeting, and of course, the formal rulemaking process that happens afterwards. And this is just a reminder of some of the awesome work that our policy team and our outreach team do. There is a portion on our website. It's labor law guidance and education that includes a lot of published guidance that would be helpful for both Colorado employers and employees. Our infos are public guidance that really contains how we interpret our law or how we interpret requirements. And those documents have a lot of great examples in there where we really try to provide great guidance to employers and employees as to here's an example of what would be consistent with the law or not consistent with the law. And so those are great resources to use to really get up to speed on some of these topics or to clarify questions that you might have. Knowledges are a one pager, just a quick one page. Here are your rights or here are the requirements. So we really encourage people to do that. Finally, labor law videos. Again, our outreach team is awesome. They've prepared a lot of these awesome short educational videos that can really be utilized by employers to share with their employees or to share with stakeholders or to share with management. So I encourage people to really take advantage of those resources that are on this website. And like I said, there's a lot there, but the website will be a great way to navigate and to look at those options. And with that, I believe Jessica is back up to start the Q&A.
Thank you, JM. It looks like we've got a couple of questions in the Q&A for you, JM. So I'm going to start with you since you're already in the hot seat. A question here from Meg. The question is, if your employer allows tipping, but you don't always receive tips, can they still pay you at the lower minimum wage rate?
Let's see. So this seems like a pretty substantive question. I just have to look at the actual written.
It's from Meg Chamberlain in the Q&A.
If your employer allows tipping, but you don't always receive tips, can they still pay you at the lower minimum wage rate? I will back up and just say that an employer can only pay the lower minimum wage, like the lower tipped rate is what we call it, the tipped minimum wage rate, if the employee qualifies as a tipped employee. And so we have an info on this, and I would encourage people to look at our info on this. And we have a rule on this actually as well in our comps order. And it defines what a tipped employee is and the legal requirements for who a tipped employee is. One of those requirements is that the tipped employee has to earn a certain amount of money per hour in tips to be a tipped employee. So it's hard to answer that question without, knowing more of are the other requirements for a tipped employee satisfied for the employer to be able to take a tip credit for that particular and that's what we call as the tip credit when you're able to pay the lower tipped minimum wage. So I would say that it depends, which is a fun lawyerly answer. And yes, I am a lawyer, but it really would require looking at all of the additional requirements to make sure that this person does qualify as a tipped employee. And if they do, then they can be paid the tipped minimum wage. So that's my best way of being able to answer right at this moment.
Thanks, JM. And we will grab that info for everyone here on this call and include a link to that in our follow-up message when we send out the slides and the recording. So we can get you direct link to the info that JM was referring to. Another question here from Donna Miller. JM, I think this is directed towards DLS since it came in when you were talking about the minimum wage update. The question is, what is the minimum salary exemption threshold going to be in Colorado in 2027?
So that will be a part of the rulemaking process. That number I don't have on hand now, but I believe there's a formula that we use to adjust for it. And without access to that right now in front of me, but we can get that material for you. But when we propose, this is called our pay calc order. The pay calc order when we propose those rules, and those proposed rules will probably be proposed sometime in September or October, it will have that number. It'll have that threshold. It'll adjust for all of the different thresholds. There's a threshold called the highly compensated employee threshold. There's lots of these different numbers. They get adjusted every year, and those will be published in the proposed rules. And that's where we'll have a better idea as to like what those actual numbers are going to be. But they typically are adjusted for things like inflation and there's like a formula that goes to them. But without access to that, I don't want to, speak without having a set of those proposed rules. But I would say that you will get those answers for sure in about a month or two. And yeah, we'll send you that information. And I saw, by the way, sorry, Jessica, I saw that Meg also had said that she works at a retail shop, and that hey, there's tipping there. What like can they do that with us? And it's a good question. Again, the tip profession also has, or sorry, the tipped employee definition has something called the are you in an industry or are you in a career where there's it is customary to receive tips or it is, and so we'll get you that info because it'll have that information. I think it'll give you a lot of insight. And then you'll also get information on how to submit an inquiry to the division to where we can maybe more thoroughly analyze it if it's permissible at that time.
Thank you, JM. Quick reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A. This is your chance to get your questions answered directly from our division directors. We have plenty of time left, but if we need to end early, we will. I did see a few questions come in throughout the presentation. I'm going to hand this one over to Tracy Marshall. The question is, do you know if the family premium rate is changing in 2027? That's already been answered in the chat, but would love for you to remind everyone about the rulemaking process there.
Yeah, so that was the rules that we discussed yesterday at our public rule hearing. And those rules will be adopted on September 1st, go into effect January 1st. We have not yet released what that rate will be, but we do anticipate a decrease for 2027.
Thank you, Tracy. Looks like Lindsay is answering another question from Tammy, but her question is family related. It was regarding, is there still a rule that allows the employee portion can be no more than 0.45% of wages?
So I
Tracy.
can clarify that one a little bit. Yeah, so it's going to be 50% of whatever we set the rate to be. So when the rate was 0.9, it was 0.45. This year, the rate was 0.88. So the employee and the employer could do 0.44 each, and that will continue as a 50% of whatever we set the rate to be. And we are going to be trying to keep those as whole numbers to make all of our lives easier.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm going to go back to some of the questions that have been answered previously. This question is for Megan Culp. The question is for the requests for wage info corrections. Is there a way to send those back electronically?
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. I did provide a link in my response. I think we can also include that in our slide deck when we send that out later to a user guide that we have on our website. But yes, the answer is yes. We do that through what we call a wage adjustment process. So when you have a wage file that's already been uploaded, there is an adjustment pathway, and all of the instructions will be on our website. You're welcome to look at that when we send out that link, or just Google wage adjustments Colorado UI, and it will navigate you right to that page. But yes, generally that is where you can also, if you've received a request from DLSS, the Division of Labor Standards and Statistics, they may be asking you to update your employee counts. You can also do that through the wage adjustment process. So if that's what you're referring to, not just a correction to the amount of wages you reported for an employee, you can also adjust your number of employees per month in the quarter of which you're reporting through that same process.
Thank you, Megan. I have a question now. Either Phil or Megan can answer for unemployment. The question is there a way to see if an employee claiming unemployment insurance has found a job or is looking?
Okay,
I'll jump in. Oh, you want to jump in, Phil? Go for it.
Yeah, I'll jump in and I'll let Megan follow up if so. So Not particularly for an employer to necessarily be able to look at that. However, understand that individuals are required to, on a weekly basis, provide their work search to the Unemployment Insurance Division. So we review that to make sure they're making a work search best meant to ensure prompt reemployment and suitable employment. Related to starting another job, the division utilizes the new hire database, the national new hire database, and looks for hits on those if people are not reporting their earnings. But individuals are required to report their earnings. If you, as an employer, happen to believe that somebody may be working somewhere and not reporting earnings to us and or not actively seeking employment, you are certainly welcome to contact us and provide a tips and lead to our benefit payment control unit.
Thanks, Phil. Next question is a family-related question. So Tracy, feel free to jump in if you can answer this. If not, I think Lindsay and or Evan can answer. The question is there any way for quarterly family reporting to be copied from a previous quarter for employers with more than 50 employees?
That is totally a Lindsay question. She's already on camera. Thanks, Lindsay.
Of course. Unfortunately, at this point, we can only copy up to 50 employees from a previous quarter. But that is something that we can look to enhance for the future. We do recognize that copying a prior quarter's report is so much easier than entering a new one completely from scratch. So we'll make sure that that feedback is recorded and included in future developments.
Thanks, Lindsay. Go ahead. Were you going to add something more?
I was just going to say, if manually entering wages each quarter is something that you would prefer not to do, there is always the option of doing a wage upload where you create a CSV file that you can upload to our system so that we just ingest that data, compute your premiums, and you don't have to type it in endlessly. So that's also an option.
Thanks, Lindsay. Looks like we've gotten through all of our open questions. So if there's anything lingering, feel free to type in your question now. Otherwise, we will send out the recording, the slide deck, a copy of all of the questions and answered that we addressed here today. That'll come to your inboxes either this afternoon or tomorrow. We'll also be publishing all of those materials on our website. So if you need to share that with others, you can check the Compliance Quarterly page of our website. Looks like we did just get in one more question. Looks like this is for DLSS. The question is, under info number 4, can an employee take a short meal period, 20 minutes as an example, instead of a full 30-minute meal period? Furthermore, an employee decides to not take a meal period at all for personal reasons. What stance can an employer take in situations like this? JM, can you answer that?
I can't.
Uh-oh. Did we lose JM? Or is he only frozen for me?
He's also frozen for me.
Okay,
We can-
well, JM, I think you're having some technical difficulties. Looks like you're freezing up. Okay.
Am I back?
I think you're back. Go ahead.
We are so back, everyone. Let's do this. No, so I would encourage you to submit an inquiry to the division for this one, because I would be doing you a disservice by trying to answer this question on the fly, because this is an area where there are some parameters as to, is it voluntary? Is it a voluntary choice? And so I don't want to speak out of turn, but this is something that we routinely can look at. And if it doesn't constitute actual legal advice, we can provide clarification about what the law requires, or what the law might require in a based on a hypothetical, or do the best that we can. But I would say that this is a very good question. It's a type of question that we regularly see through inquiries. And so we will make sure you have the information that you need to be able to submit an inquiry that pertains to this.
Thanks, JM. Ooh, one more question here from, a few more. So keep them coming. We've got 15 more minutes. So if you have more questions, feel free to type them in. We have a question here from Jess Johnson. Will there be reports available beginning in calendar year 27 when an employee takes medical leave and for the employer's computed income FICA tax piece? Will this be something that FAMLI will send to the employers, if applicable, for each benefit payment an employee receives, or will it be a monthly or quarterly report sent, etc.? I think Evan is on. Evan, can you address that question? Or Tracy?
Yeah, sure. Are we talking about Jess's question? Sorry, I was just chatting to Adam on the side about that one exactly.
Yes, we are talking about that one.
Okay, great. Yeah, we will be delivering notifications to employers on that. Adam, can you add some more detail to that, please?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we'll be delivering those notices on a semi-weekly basis, so twice per week, at most. So sometimes you won't receive those if we haven't paid your employees on that particular week or half week. And those notices are going to be sent both via email communication as well as will be available to you on the employer portal.
Thank you, Adam. We have another question here from Christine. It looks like Eric is typing out an answer, but the question is asking for Denver zip codes that are included in the Denver minimum wage increase, and where do we find that list? Once Eric answers that, we can get the answer here for everybody, and we'll include that in the follow-up email as well. Another question here from Tammy. This is for FAMLI. If they have a private family plan and the premium is 0.82% of wages, and if the CDLE rate next year will be 0.86, can we still make the employee pay 50% of the CDLE rate, which would be 0.43, or would we cap the employee portion to 0.41, which is half of their own private plan? Evan and or Adam. Or
Yeah,
Lindsay.
definitely Evan and or Adam, but I would always say an employer can always be more generous. So that's always an option, but I'll defer you to Evan for a better response.
Sure, and it's a great question, and I think the short answer is, we're looking for equivalency under the private plan experience and the state plan experience, or better, as Tracy pointed out. And so long as the employer isn't recouping premiums in an amount more than is allowed under the state plan, they're fine.
Thank you, Evan. If anyone else has questions that you'd like answered, okay, we got one in from Beatrice. They are a manufacturing company. Supervisors take the necessary corrective action, verbal, written, paid, suspension, and ultimately term if the problem persists. Not sure what the question is here, Beatrice, but if you want to provide clarity, you can. Looks like this may have also been a follow-up to something that was already answered previously. But with that, if we have gotten through all of our questions, we will gift you back a couple more minutes before lunch. Thanks, Beatrice, and we'll see you guys again next time. Again, recording, slide deck, Q&A will all be published either today or tomorrow, and we'll also send that out via email to everybody who registered.